Hello, everyone. This is Ray here. Today we're going to be watching Charlie Kirk debates college liberal wanting to abolish the Electoral College. Initial thoughts. Obviously, this is a little late. This is like during the Biden administration, but obviously Trump beat Hillary, but Hillary won the popular vote. So she's probably still mad about that because women can't do better than Hillary Clinton and Kamala Harris, apparently. Which is just sad. And if you can't do better than those two ladies, then maybe you shouldn't have the right to vote in the first place, because that's how sad it is. So put someone real up there. Anyways, let's get into the video.
Yes, but you said you have an issue with the government not representing the will of the people. So if you personally have an issue with that, then why do you support him if that is not the will of the people?
Right. So will and majority are two different things. Right? So are we a democracy? You're not here. Are we a democracy?
Should we be?
No, but are we?
Just answer the
Why
question.
should we not be? Is that not a core fundamental point?
She knows the answer. She won't answer it. Asks a counter question without answering his question. And then asks another question. Why should we not be? I don't know. Random late 20s to maybe early 30s, middle class white woman. I don't know. Maybe because the founding fathers didn't make us a democracy. And, have you ever heard the term the Great Experiment? That's what this is. You want to just like abandon it? 250 years in? 250th anniversary coming up, right? Of the country. You want to just abandon that? Jesus Christ. Continue.
No, but are we?
Why should we not be? Is that not a core fundamental point of American society?
No. Has democracy appeared anywhere in the Constitution?
Does she not know?
I mean, that is genuinely a valid point. However,
He knows.
your point of the government should represent the people, why is it that democracy is not in the Constitution, or why is it that you believe that the will of the majority is not as important as the will of the minority if your issue specifically is the government should represent the people better?
Good question.
Fair question.
We believe in the Electoral College. Why? Because Kansas deserves a voice. Because Missouri deserves a voice. And it's the most important way I could distill it.
Yep.
Is the union we have is the states created it, the federal government didn't create it. So the kind of price of admission is every state gets 2 senators, congressmen based on population, and then electoral votes based on that population. So you kind of get a mix of both. And it's also this tension. And I would ask the question, if we abolished the Electoral College, do you think that the needs, wants, and interests of Missouri, Kansas, Iowa, North, South Dakota, Montana would be taken as seriously as New York and California? That would be my question to you.
Do you believe that some citizens...
Just answer any question he asks you. Answer any question he asks you. And if you want to ask a counter question after you answer it, fine. Answer anything. The reason they don't answer the questions he asks is because they know they're not stupid. They might be brainwashed or something, I don't know, but they're not stupid. They know the answers to these questions, and they know that their answers to these questions, they don't make them look like they represent what they claim to represent. Just answer any question he asks. No, it would not be fair to all these states that have lower populations, which, as we see every single election, even when Democrats win, we see it every single election, is an overwhelming majority by landmass, at least, of the country. Almost the entire map is completely fucking red every single election. No, it wouldn't be fair. It would not be fair to have a handful of big cities throughout the country dictate how all these other people across the entire country live. No, it would not be. That's the answer. And she knows this. That's why she ignores it. And she goes right into, oh, let me just ignore it. Let me ask him another question. Holy.
Do you believe that some citizens are more valuable than others, because in our current system, some people's votes hold more sway than others, because people in like Wyoming who have smaller populations have more say than places like here in Missouri and Kansas.
No, they don't.
Why is this acceptable if it's, again, your issue is the will of the people?
So look at it like this, lady. If you take, I don't know, 6, 7, 10 of these Sun Belt states or Rust Belt states or whatever, these rural states, and they all end up voting Republican, they'd probably still add up to less electoral votes than California. So are you still going to say their votes matter more than the vote of someone in California? Come on.
Because we're not a democracy. So a democracy is simple majoritarianism. So let me give you an example. In a democracy, by up or down vote, you could say, I want to enslave black people. A constitutional republic says, no, you're going to have to go through a process to do that. So let me ask you a question. Do you think the majority, the will of the people, could ever be wrong?
Yes.
Okay. So
answer.
the founding fathers knew it could almost assuredly be wrong, right? So the system of a republic versus a democracy is it has to be slow and arduous and intentional because it has a preference on liberty, right, not on free stuff.
Yes. And Democrats, hey, listen to me, Democrats, come in real close. Senate Democrats, specifically House Democrats and Senate Democrats. That's why you don't want to get rid of the filibuster. Because if you do, well, one day, Republicans will be in power, like today, and then you're not going to like it. For those of you confused, Democrats tried to get rid of the filibuster before this most recent election.
And so over a period of time, how do you best protect liberty? Well, you got to spread over all the representation over space and time, right? So you do it over a lot of states, a lot of square miles, a lot of acreage, and it takes a lot of time to take over the federal government, right? You have to win an election, and then an election, and election. It's not impossible. We eradicated slavery. We gave women the right to vote. So it's possible to get change done. But the founding fathers were less concerned about getting progress done really quickly, and they were more concerned with the government doing bad stuff too quickly. Does that make sense?
But that is not what you said. You said that your specific problem is the government does not do the will of the people. Why is it that your will and what you want is more important than that of the majority?
Well, it's not my will. It's the framers and the system we have. But to answer your question, I believe the best way to determine the will of the people is through states' rights and states' directives.
Boom! Jump scare. So the disconnect seems to be she just misunderstood what he meant by the will of the people. The will of the people is not the will of the majority. The will of the people is that everybody has a voice. Ignoring, if you get an election that's 51% to 49%, the will of the people is not ignoring and just pushing to the side the demands and the needs and the wants of those 49%. And that's where states' rights come in, right? I'm not going to move to New York City, or New York State for that matter. I'm not going to move to fucking California, Los Angeles. I'm not going to move to Minneapolis, even though Minneapolis and Minnesota, beautiful, beautiful. I would love to move there, but I never will unless they change politically to more align with things that I value as an individual, such as, basic Second Amendment rights, being tough on crime, things like that, right? So that's where representing not only the majority, but giving the minority representation comes in. And in my opinion, it's not a perfect system, not at all. I personally prefer the system a lot of the European countries do, which is a plurality. But I mean, you see the danger in that winning by a plurality is how Adolf Hitler got into power, for example. That's not great. We don't want that. But it does it empowers third and fourth and fifth parties even, and it does give voices to more people with different values and beliefs and stuff like that, which, I mean, that can be good and bad, but our system's pretty good too. I think Charlie and this lady, they just have a disconnect there.
If Kansas wants to say, hey, we can have decentralized gun laws or school choice, God bless Kansas. And so the question is not, is national will also versus state will, right? So we have to recognize that the values of someone in Kansas, in Manhattan, Kansas, is a lot different than the values of someone in Manhattan, New York. It's a lot different. And so through a democracy, it'd say, hey, the people of New York City want to have firearms confiscated. I don't think that dog's going to hunt in Manhattan, Kansas. Well, Kansas State University, so I don't know. But it allows, answer your question, it allows people that disagree with one another to live in the same nation. You see, a Republican-style government, small r, allows people that might agree on almost nothing to still engage in self-government while still having a national project to participate in. So to clarify it even more, it is a question of the consent to the governed. If it was just a democracy, it would be an up or down vote on every single person, and that's it. The Founding Fathers saw that fail time and time again. Athenian democracy. People just vote themselves stuff. So they said, we have to have some sort of system that realizes that if men were angels, government would not be necessary, but men are not angels, so we got to create some sort of government. Federalist 51, as Madison said. So we got to figure this out. So government is necessary, but we don't want to have too big a government, and people are just going to vote themselves stuff all the time. So how do we do that? Well, local is better than national, but you got to have some sort of a national influence. And so they created the great balance between Jeffersonian and Hamiltonian type philosophy, as we know, is the U.S. Constitution. And the one thing they all agreed on, though, is human nature. They knew that absolute power corrupts absolutely, and that people were likely to abuse it. So I would just kind of counter by saying the will of the people can be best expressed through a multi-state project. For example, I believe an election is much healthier and much more representative by requiring candidates to go to Iowa, Ohio, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and not just spending time on the coast. Because you know why? It might seem as if, oh, we don't need those flyover states. We don't need them. First of all, that's arrogant, prideful, and wrong. How exactly are you going to feed your family, and where do you think the breadbasket of the world comes from? The founders saw ahead. And final thing I'll say is this.
All right, before Charlie wraps up, hey, Katie Porter, if you ever see this, you might want to take note. Yeah, if a reporter asks you how you're going to appeal to the 40% of voters in your, I don't know, congressional district or state or area of representation, the appropriate answer is not what you wanted to say, which is fuck them, I don't need them. The appropriate answer is anything else. Maybe go into some kind of policy that might have some kind of appeal to them or something like that. Anyways, yeah. Wait, let me run back what he said at the end there a little bit.
I believe an election is much healthier and much more representative by requiring candidates to go to Iowa, Ohio, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and not just spending time on the coast.
Yep. And again, no for Democrats on that. You need to get your ground game up, because there's not a lot of ways to lose every single swing state. What, 7 swing states, right? But yeah, you got to get your ground game up, because this man right here on screen, he's the reason you lost, because he was boots on the ground going to all these places for years and years and years, changing people's minds, getting billions of views across just TikTok alone, and even more across all his platforms. And what did you do? Nothing. You sat there, arrogant, pompous, preaching to people about, hey, you have to let men into women's bathrooms. You're still doing it. Telling people, hey, you have to let men play in women's sports. You're preaching Joanna Man, for fuck's sake. That's a comedy movie. It's a comedy. You're a laughing stock. It's a comedy movie. You're making a comedy movie. Your political position, like, for fuck's sake. Anyways.
You know why? It might seem as if, oh, we don't need those flyover states. We don't need them. First of all, that's arrogant, prideful, and wrong.
Yep.
How exactly are you going to feed your family, and where do you think the breadbasket of the world comes from? The founders saw ahead. And final thing I'll say is this, is that it was Hamilton or it was Madison that said, we cannot have the tyranny of the cities over the farmers. And that's built into our system. Thank you for being here tonight. I got to get to the next question. Thank you.
Boom. All right, cool. Good stuff. I don't really know what to add to that. Yeah, Democrats, I don't know, man. I really wonder how the big cities became so decisively blue. But it is good to see that I noticed this last election, the Trump one, some big Democrat safe havens, if you will, they still went blue, but they didn't go as blue. There was a lot more red than normal in there. So we'll see what the future holds. Anyways, that's it. Like, subscribe, comment. I reply to every comment. Yeah, that's it. Peace.